Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. No. It sometimes delays. Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. So as long as it's like that. And also, if all else fails, this is actually a microphone that is live that we use for the piano. We had the piano hooked up, but we've got to redo the settings with the guy who did it because we had to switch our pianos out. The other one that had sticky keys. So this is backup. It should. But don't change the wiring because I got in trouble with that. It had terrible sound for a while. We figured why it was because I had plugged into the wrong. It sounded like we were like right. Well, it was if we have it plugged into two that are like linked, like there might be two, but it's Good morning. I want to just let you know we will start in a moment. I'm going to go in Terkria with a family, and then we will start our service.
Good morning. It is still morning, just for about another 50 minutes. And we are here today with the family of Barbara Stein, who was a beloved, beloved member of our community. I will just reflect that every time I talk to Barbara, it was almost a larger-than-life experience. And she is someone who I will always hold as a character. And I never felt that I was going to walk away from an experience with Barbara without a laugh and without some gregarious moments. And so my hope is today that we can honor her in truth and be good to her, and mostly be good to her family as they walk this journey today and in the future without her in their life. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit our loved ones gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of their light and their warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. My name is Rabbi Cantor Devorah Fick, and I'm the spiritual leader here at Congregation Bethel, and I was honored to therefore be Barbara's rabbi here in this place. We remember Basha Zisha Bat Baruch Valea, and today, this morning, we will join our hearts together and give comfort and strength to her family. Mourning is a time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet, and I hope for Barbara's sake often that we will also find some humor in them. We begin our service with a recitation of a few psalms and prayers so that we can link Barbara's life with the millennia-old tradition of Am Yisrael and the eternity of our God. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol v'chayam, rishru shel hamayim, mirach hashamayim, tefilat hadam, rishru shel hamayim, Berach hashamayim, Berach hashamayim, tefilat adam. My God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea and the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens and the prayer of the heart. Our rabbis taught that there are three crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But they emphasize that the crown of a good name excels them all. That's from Pirkei Avot 4:17. And the book of Ecclesiastes says, Tov Shem Mishmein Tov, a good name is to be treasured above precious oil. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echasar, Binot Shayar Betzeni Almei Menuchut Yinachaleni Nashi Yishovev. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. God leads me in right paths for the sake of God's name. And even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for God is with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Oh God, you have been our refuge in every generation before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world. From eternity to eternity, you are God. Esainai nael harim me'ayin yavo Esri me'im Adonai osei shamayim v'aretz. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian. Adonai is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. Adonai will guard your going and coming now and forever. Adonai yishmor zeitcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad ulam. And so now we'll turn to a version of a woman of valor, which I would like to read for you, and then we'll have some sharing from the family. And this is really the moment when we can really honor Barbara. And this time, we have so many voices that we'll hear from the family. It's really a beautiful testament of their love for her and the way that they can share with you their relationships. First, we will have Sarah share with us. That is Barbara's granddaughter. And then Ben, her grandson. And then her brother Marty will speak. And then Mikey, her son. And the last speaker will be Lisa. If you guys change your minds, it's okay. If someone needs a moment and you want to change the order, we will understand. But that is what we will plan to do. A mother of generations, a woman of valor. She is precious in the gifts that she has given to our family. Her children have found trust and truth in these gifts. We follow in patterns that she taught. She is robed in strength and dignity, and she smiles at the future. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. We benefit and learn from her wisdom. May she always be credited for the fruit of her labor and her achievements, and may she live on in glory. So I'll invite Sarah to come up. And Ben, why don't you come up with Sarah, and the two of you can be here together, and then you can talk as you want. Here's the microphone for you. There you go.
Grams, leave it to you to go out with a bang in your favorite place, out a slot machine in the casino, around two of your closest friends. I wouldn't expect anything less. My grandma was always the life of the party, the loveliest person in the room, and she could absolutely go anywhere and make friends. In fact, the friend she was with when she passed, she met playing slot machines at the airport in Vegas on her way home to Florida some 18 years ago. I used to joke that her friends were so fun I went down to Florida every winter just to hang out with them. These two that she was with in particular have become like grandparents to me, and I have Grandma to thank for that. I also have Grandma to thank for 95% of the clothes in my closet, school computers, and cars sitting on our driveway. As Dad said at our wedding, if I needed anything, I was to call 1-800-CALL-GRANDMA. And I can tell you that never failed. I didn't see Grandma all that often, but she was always a phone call away if I needed to vent, some life advice, or someone to gossip with. She always knew when I called her every week it was to catch up on life while I took Tally and our dog on a walk. I'll definitely miss those weekly calls. Grandma was also one to occasionally forget a birthday. One year she forgot Dad's birthday, and to make up for it, she sent him a card with $20 in it every month for the next year. Ironically, this year she didn't forget my husband or daughter's birthday coming up in the next few weeks, because on Monday, February 3rd, just 2 days after she passed, a card for each of them showed up in our mailbox. Just like Grandma, to find a way to make us laugh and cry all at the same time. Grandma, we love you and we'll miss you more than you know. But I promise to keep your memories alive as we continue to grow our family.
Grandma, I'm going to miss the many times you took my friends and I to the casino for food during university. I still clearly remember when you took a couple of us to the all-you-can-eat buffet. You had food credit you wanted to use up before you went to Florida. And since the buffet didn't use it all up, we went upstairs, and something like 15 takeaway order of wings later, the credit was gone, and my friends had food for a week. Living with Grandma my last year of university was also a special treat. Although she was only around for a bit at the beginning and end, she never failed to make sure there was food in the fridge and that I had eaten. You also can't forget Grandma's love for TVs. I took one with me to my house in third year, and within a week afterwards, she went out, bought another one, and promptly installed it. She probably owns more TVs, toasters, and coffee pots than anything. You were a grandmother to everyone, and that is clear by everyone just knowing you as Grandma. We all love you and miss you, and we'll keep your fun and friendly vibe you always carried with us forever.
Thank you very much for sharing those memories with us. I appreciate it. Marty, are you ready? Okay, come on.
What do I say about my sister? I stand here because of my sister. My sister's supported me throughout my life. I owe her everything. We come from a dysfunctional family in a sense that my mother and dad never got along. We lived in tension, but my sister and I stuck together. My sister always offered me help, whether it was financial, whether it was use of car. There was my sister. Her generosity was tremendous. I have some interesting moments about my sister. One time, I was maybe about 8 or 9 years old, and I hear this yelling. I'm upstairs, and she's screaming. I run downstairs, and I say, Barbara, what's going on? Well, could you turn the channel for me? The next episode of my sister was maybe every month, we would go down to Hudson's, and it would be my sister, my mother, and I. And, you know, being Jews, you didn't go in the front door of Hudson's. You went in the back door. So we went through this alley, and we'd go up into the Hudson's. People were looking at us. Why are we entering through the back? But then we would get to the elevator. They'd open the elevator, and if you remember, Hudson's had this crank, and it was like a steel door, and the lady would swing it open, and you'd come in, and then she would announce each floor at Hudson's. 5th floor this, 6th floor this, but then the 7th floor is the women's floor. So my sister and my mother would get out on the 7th floor, and all of a sudden my sister would say, you stay inside. And I said, what's going on? She says, you can't get out on the women's floor. So I stayed in the elevator going up and down. The amazing thing is, as a physician, many years later, this lady comes in, and I ask my patients what their occupation was or what they did, and she said to me, I ran the elevator at Hudson's. And I said to her, yeah, that's amazing. I used to stay in the elevator. She says, I remember you. That was my sister. The other amazing moment was I was on the milk route with my dad, and I remember we were on Calvert and Linwood in the old area. I used to peddle milk with my dad on the weekends. And all of a sudden, I see this car screaming up to us, and I recognize it's my sister's car. And she runs up into the milk truck, and she says to me, I got this letter for you. I says, what are you talking about? You got to open it. And it was a letter from Wayne State University. So I said, oh my God, it's whether I got in or not. You know, it's either, at that time, either you got into medical school or you ended up in Vietnam. So it's at that moment, I opened the letter, and it says, congratulations, you are going to be attending the 1970 medical school class. My sister gave me this big hug, started jumping up and down. We went crazy in the milk route. My dad came in. We all hugged each other at a moment that I'll never forget. And we had, let's see, we finished off a bottle of chocolate milk, a bottle of orange juice, a pint of ice cream, and we had a great time. That was my sister. My sister was a lovely person. I'll miss her dearly. I can't say enough about her. I tried to get close to her over the last several years because she went through really a difficult time in her life. First, the loss of her husband, then a friend she lost. That was my sister. She was a survivor. She was a great lady, and I'll miss her dearly.
Thank you, Marty. So, Mikey, you're coming? All right, Michael will share with us now about his mother.
I wrote it down.
I didn't. I never write notes. I never write any of that. I just talk from the heart. I want to talk about how much my mom loved Detroit sports. The Honolulu blue and silver and the D. She loved the Lions and she loved the Tigers. And let me tell you, if you're watching the Lions with her, my best advice, look out. Because she could get a little emotional. Especially if the running back or the wide receiver had the ball in the open and there was no one around, my mother would jump up from whatever she was sitting on and scream, "Run, you idiot, run!" And she firmly believed that if she screamed loud enough, that running back or that wide receiver was going to hear her and run faster. And she loved the Al Kaline era Tigers. She loved them. Norm Cash and all those guys. Jim Northrup. But Al Kaline to her was the leader, the guy. And I'll never forget her reaction when he got elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. She was beaming. It was so great for her. It wasn't just him. It wasn't just for his accomplishments. It was for all of us, all Tiger fans everywhere, every Tiger fan. It was our victory, our honor. It was for all of us. She had her heart and soul in it. She was no fair weather fan. Win or lose, horrible or great, she was with her teams no matter what. Now I want to talk about my favorite subject, cars, the greatest four-letter word ever invented. She had a 60 Chevy Impala convertible, 64 Chevy Impala convertible, which proves to the world she was cool. Unfortunately, with marriage, well, that sort of ended. You know, with the cars, convertibles, no more. But, you know, we still had the 68 Chrysler Big Blue Bomber. We followed that up with the king of them all, the 76 New Yorker land yacht. With a 440 cubic inch V8 engine, 4-barrel carburetor, police interceptor engine, and she drove it like that. Then we had the ultimate cruise machine, the burgundy with gold pinstripes and power sunroof and seek and scan radio, 1981 Chrysler New Yorker. Man, we loved that car. And then she followed that up with a pair of Lincoln Town cars. Now I got to talk about my relationship with Mom and my cars. So when I was young and stupid, I went out and got a 1968 Corvette convertible. but I didn't tell her. Then, not long after I got it, I said, Mom, there's a Corvette show at the GM Tech Center. You remember it. You were there. And I said, hey, Mom, what do you think of that 68 over there? So she walks over to it. And she says, Michael, what's your business card doing on the dash? So that was a pretty good moment. Remember that? Later that summer, I heard word of voice and on the radio, there's this new car show coming up. It's a benefit for some like high school sports team. It's called the Woodward Dream Cruise. I thought, Woodward, I think my mom would like that sort of deal. So I called her up and said, Mom, meet me at 13 Woodward. We'll do this little car show. Well, this little car show, it was a lot more than we bargained for. 25,000 cars showed up. And no policemen. People standing on the side of the road cheering us. We left a lot of rubber on Woodward that day. And my mother, she just loved it. And then, in future years, it boomed, and my mom always knew that she was a part of history. Then a few years later, when I came back to Detroit, I think this was the 2000 Woodward Dream Cruise, I said, Mom, let's go to the cruise again. She says, well, Benjamin and Sarah are staying with me. I said, bring them along. Well, of course, they were probably this big about that time. So I said, let's all stuff ourselves into my vet and we'll cruise. We did that at 2 miles an hour. We passed a policeman. We said hello to him. But the moment I'll never forget was just literally seconds later, my mom bursting in laughter after some guy standing out in the crowd on the side of the road yells, what do you know, you can put 4 people in a Corvette. One other thing about cars. My mom's, I've got to talk about this too. My mom was a trooper. She would deal with, didn't matter what the circumstances are, she would deal with it. Suck it up and deal with it like any Detroiter would. So there was this one weekend she went out to, she was in Vegas, but rather than me going to Vegas, she came out to visit me in LA. And it was perfect weekend because the Peterson Car Museum was having their first show in over a year because they'd had renovations. They were close to renovations. Trouble was, it was going to be a little chilly, low 40s. But that wasn't going to stop my mom. And my mom was a firm believer in the 11th commandment, thou shalt not drive a convertible with the top up. So I pulled the car out of the garage, my Corvette out of the garage, put the top down. My mother buttoned up her hoodie all tight and got the hoodie on, and away we went. Last thing I gotta talk about is how much my mom loved, maybe it wasn't even the best thing, but she loved the one-armed bandit. Maybe a little too much, but yeah. So August 2019, my mom's in Vegas. I go out and spend the weekend with her. And we started it out at the favorite restaurant, the Sports Bar at the Bally's. Then I knew it was off to the floor. Then we go out to, she says, okay, we're going to a couple slot machines. So what do? It's these big, huge 2 slot machines. There's nothing else like it in the building. And she's on the left, I'm on the right, and we're playing for a while, and it's about a little more than half an hour in, I'm getting bored. And of course, I'm an engineer. I know the laws of mathematics and probability and statistics and the odds, and I know I don't play slots, but you know what? The laws of mathematics and the odds, my mother, that isn't going to stop her. So we're playing for about half an hour, and I say to her, Mom, let's do something else or whatever. And I knew exactly what she was going to say because it wouldn't have mattered when I asked that question. 1 hour in, 4 hours in, whatever. She says, Michael, just a few more minutes. Well, anyways, my next hit, and I'm not even watching the machine, I just hear a whole pile of sirens and music and noise and all this stuff, and it took me a few seconds to realize that I just hit for $10,000. So it's like, we can't believe it. Like, wow, this is pretty darn incredible. Next night, we go to a different restaurant, and I'm thinking, okay, now tonight we're going to hit the blackjack tables. Nope, my mom wants to go back to the same slot machines. Once again, it's like the engineer in me. It's like, okay, you won the one last night, which is the probability is 0. The probability of winning again tonight is less than 0. We go to the same machines. She's on the left, I'm on the right. 6 minutes in, my machine goes nuts. $7,000 we won. Can't believe it, unbelievable. So I just had to tell that story. It's my favorite story about my time with my mom in the casino. it just, you know, it gave her a lot of energy, lots of fun. Maybe she did it a bit too much, but I don't know. She always loved the energy of the place. And I got to say, now I'm finishing up, I got to say thank you to all of you for all the love and the friendship that you gave to my mom for so long.
So I'm not an off-the-cuff speaker. I actually wrote some notes. When the rabbi asked us who would speak today during the funeral and in what order, we said that it would depend on what everyone was going to say. After reviewing the eulogies and kind of knowing Uncle Marty might show up as well, it seemed appropriate that I would be the last speaker on behalf of Barbara's family. I get to share my personal memories as well as a bit about Mom's life, other passions, and you, the friends and family of Windsor and Detroit, her home. Barbara grew up in Detroit, the daughter of Ben and Lillian Pevsner. She was the middle child of 3, having an older sister, Miriam, of blessed memory, and a younger brother, Marty. Her sister, Miriam, passed away at a very young age, her family devastated, and my mom having lasting memories of the pain she endured at the end of her life. Mommy has a picture figurine of Miriam that is kept in her bedroom, keeping an eye on her every night before she went to bed. She was most proud of her brother Barty. Some of you here may know him as Dr. Pevsner, rheumatologist extraordinaire. But she claimed that by him she knew all kinds of things about health, as, "My brother is a doctor." Interestingly enough, Uncle Marty used to give her all kinds of health advice, and she would do what she wanted anyway. As those of you who knew Mommy knew that proper eating and exercise were really not in her vocabulary. Mommy went to high school at the famous Mumford High in Detroit. She already remembered those years fondly, attending many class reunions over the years to reconnect. Her education led her to the profession of teaching, even though she really wanted to be a nurse. She turned out to be a great teacher, as in her apartment hangs a "To the Best Teacher in the World" award from Class 7B in 1961. She married my dad in 1965 and settled into life in Windsor, having 2 children, Michael and me. Memories of my mom include when I was a few years old and she wanted me to learn how to swim. We went to the JCC outdoor pool here in Windsor. She told me to close my mouth and she threw me in the water. I came up, am still alive, and swimming is my most favorite sport. Learning how to cook. She taught me how to make a chocolate cake that won an award from B'nai B'rith when I was a teenager. How to make round challahs, but not braided ones, as neither of us could ever figure out how to braid hair or challah. And chicken soup that is not done until the chicken is dead. Trying to hide from her the vegetables I didn't want, or the jar of peanut butter from under my bed. She had eyes on the back of her head and knew everything. Giving me the car whenever I wanted it, making me the favorite in high school, allowing me to sign my own get-out-of-class forms in high school. She knew I was a good student and wouldn't take advantage. In fact, I taught that to Sarah as well. And advocating for me the one time I ever got kicked out of class. She calmly picked me up, asked me what happened, knew it would never happen again, and on went life. The Essential Guide to Freezer Food Storage. One year, Elaine Cohn wanted to cook a turkey. She had one in the house, but she considered it too old. It was probably a month or 2 in the freezer. Lo and behold, the Windsor Grapevine hears about this turkey, and my mom goes over there and insists she not throw out the turkey. Mom took it home, put it in our freezer for I don't know how long, cooked it up, and we ate it. According to her, if it is in the freezer, it is never too old. Love of daytime television and television in general. I would come home from school and often find the den of our house filled with the ladies who watched the daytime soap operas having some special party. I especially remember when Luke and Laura got married on General Hospital. Mom hosted a party for the event. Soap operas may be passé, but if there is a TV around, it is generally on, if for no reason to fill an empty space. How to set up a blind date without either party knowing anything. Imagine Bregman's Bakery Restaurant, 1985. At one end of the table sits Barbara Stein, Barbara Levine, and Sharon Hochberg. I am at the table, but on the other end. They get together and decide that Barry should call and possibly ask me out. I find this out after the meal and am totally embarrassed. As luck would happen, Barry called, and here we are. Just another example of the fact that anyone is 7 degrees of separation or less from Windsor. How to travel alone with 2 kids. Mom took Michael and I to visit Auntie Rue and Uncle Marty in San Diego almost 50 years ago. I remember getting stuck in the airport in Chicago and having Mom interviewed by the TV network about her experience traveling with 2 kids. It was so cool to be on TV that I wanted to do it again. How to make friends and keep them. Mom always tried to help anybody who asked for anything. One friend asked Mom to take care of her cat. Mom did this, and the cat had the full run of our old house on Sierra Drive. I came home for a visit, started sneezing, and couldn't figure out why. Days later, she mentioned she babysat a cat. She knew I was allergic to cats, but she didn't care. "You're not here that often," she said. Doing stuff and telling Mom after. Lots of times we would do stuff that we knew Mom would freak out about or not happy with. She used to say to me, "No, you don't need to visit so often. You don't need to visit so often." So lots of times I would visit Windsor and actually call her closer to Chatham and tell her I was coming. Uncle Marty and Auntie Rue. The next time you have the thought to try and call Mom and she doesn't answer, you know, unfortunately, where she is. You don't have to track me down to have me track her down. But please call anyways to say hi. Mikey. No words right now, except you were her favorite. I belong to Daddy. You got to spend more time with her in the last few years, which gave you many more memories to hold close. Sarah, Yoav, Benjamin, Julie. You may never again get to meet or keep a person who will have such a profound place in your hearts and memory. Share her joy and her vibrancy. She will always be hugging you. Barry. Well, Mom won't be living in our basement, as we always thought was gonna happen. You and her had a very special, different dynamic. You both loved one another immensely, but always showed that love better from a distance. You, the community of Windsor. You fully embraced her when she moved here, and she embraced you back. Even though she spent months away, she always had the pulse of the community and the latest gossip. Windsor was home, and Windsor will always be home. I'm sorry, I added that last name. How to write the story of the life you want to live. Befriend anyone you can strike a conversation up with. Make lifelong friends you would do anything for. Watch TV. Go to the casino. Spend the winter in Florida. Love your family and die doing what you enjoy. Mommy, this week has been a more dramatic way to end your story than you would have ever imagined. But it brought the family closer and made memories we won't ever forget. Oh, I didn't actually. This morning I was supposed to have her favorite breakfast, but I haven't been eating too much this week. Matzah farfel and milk. In the Stein family, we could have Passover every day of the year and be happy. Rest in peace, Mom, or play the slot machines in the sky. Either way, you are now with Daddy, and you can talk to Elaine and Norma every day. We love you, and we will miss you.
Thank you for sharing from your hearts and from your memories. It was really a blessing for us. I know that you just sat down. I'm going to ask everyone to rise, please. Amalei Rachamim is a special prayer when we imagine that God does not leave us when we die and then our lives don't end. But our tradition tells us that our souls are eternal and that we are eternal spiritual beings. And so a lot of us, it's difficult for us to understand what happens at the end of someone's life. Where is this person that we loved and we knew? And our tradition, our Jewish tradition tells us that when we die, we don't actually die. Our body stays here. Our body expires, but our soul goes on. And so what happens to the soul is that God comes down like a bird and kind of puts our neshama onto God's wings, and God carries us to heaven like as we are ascending on the wings of a bird. This is the same imagery that we also see with our Hashkivenu prayer in our nighttime prayers, where God comes like a mother bird and puts God's wings over us like a sukkot shalom, a shelter of peace. And so God is no longer sheltering her in her life, but lifting her up and taking her to her eternal life. El malei rachamim, shochein b'amromim, hamsei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashchina, im kedoshim utorim, ki zohar harakia, mashirim, et nishmat basha zisha, bat baruch v'leah. Shehalacha le'olama, ba'al harachamim, yastireha meseter kinafav le'olamim, v'yisror b'yitzror ha'chaim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata v'tanuchach lebeshalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. You may be seated. The psalmist has written, "Weeping may tarry into the night, but joy comes in the morning." Al malei rachamim, O God, full of compassion, please send your comfort to those who grieve and help them to dispel the sadness that accompanies this pain of loss, and to find joy in Barbara. Barbara, who was our mother, who was our sister, a grandmother, and a dear, dear friend. May God's love inspire all of us to focus on the love that we've had for her and that she had for all of us. Help us to face the future with courage, to treasure Barbara's wonderful legacy. Sustain us in our faith, O God, even in this troubling time. As God has sustained our people in times of trouble and sorrow throughout all of the generations. Blessed is Adonai, who provides comfort for the brokenhearted. We will now move to our service at the graveside, and this is probably the biggest moment, because this is the moment when we will help the family to perform the last mitzvah that they can perform for Barbara. And so this is the one mitzvah in our life, in Barbara's life, but in all of our lives someday, that we cannot return. And so it is the most selfless mitzvah that each of us can perform for the person who has died, who we loved, and that is to give them a proper burial and to do it with dignity and love and kindness. And thus far, that has all been what we have been doing, and we will now help the family to do this. So if you are able to go to the graveside, I encourage you to do that. The service will be brief. It does take time to perform the mitzvah. I'm most concerned, though, that we've had a lot of ice lately, and so I want to encourage you to be extremely careful. If you do not feel that it is safe for you to go into the cemetery where the walkways are a little bit icy, you can walk on the grass, but if you feel unsafe, please don't come and have an accident. I think by trying or by staying safe, you are performing a mitzvah for Barbara as well. After that, I encourage you all to come back here. The family has a meal of consolation that they would love to share with you, and it will be here in the Bethel Social Hall. So if you are planning to go to the cemetery, you can go in the procession. I'll give you some instructions. I ask that if you come to a stop sign, that you please just continue through with caution. Don't stop at the stop sign every single time, because it actually causes a disruption in the flow of the procession as you're driving. Be careful, but most people will see the procession and they will understand. Finally, if you choose to stay here at Bethel, you can do that. You can stay in the social hall or here in the sanctuary if you think that it's not safe for you to go for whatever reason. I'll ask you to rise, and the family will, I'll ask you to go into the chapel, and they will accompany Barbara to the hearse outside, and then once she has left the building, then I ask you to follow out behind them. But let's let the family go with Barbara first. O you who dwell in the shelter of the Most High and abide in the protection of Shaddai, I say of Adonai, my refuge and stronghold, my God in whom I trust, that God will save you from the fowler's trap. From the destructive plague, God will cover you with pinions and will find refuge under God's wings. God's fidelity is an encircling shield. Lo tira mi pachalayla mechetziahu fiyomam. You need not fear the terror by night, or the arrow that flies by day, the plague that stalks in the darkness, or the scourge that ravages at noon. 1,000 may fall at your left side, 10,000 at your right, but it shall not reach you. Akanfim yishuncha pe tagof ba'even rag lecha. They will carry you in their hands, lest you hurt your foot on a stone.